Let's welcome in our next guest, Siddharth Talwar, partner at Lightbox, joining us right here in the studio. Sid, great to have you with us.
Great to be here, thank you.
It's been a busy time for you. You've raised the third fund.
Our third fund.
And you've been very busy with the outlay as well.
I think one of the things that we try to do is invest as much of our capital upfront in our fund life so that we have the entire 10 years or so to watch them mature, because we invest very early and we invest in very few companies.
Yeah.
And so as a result, if we have enough time to kind of watch those companies, grow with those companies and develop them, it gives us an opportunity to find liquidity at the end of it. I think the biggest problem that we face in our country is we think that companies can create liquidity in 5 or 6 years. Most companies develop over 20 years. We only have 10 years. And so as long as we can have with those businesses, the better it will turn out for them and for us. So yes, we've been very busy.
Yeah.
And you know, at a time when we've seen the PE and VC investments in India hitting record highs, $39 billion, it outdid what they had in 2018. That's a very encouraging sign too.
I think companies are growing faster and larger than they have in the past, and they'll continue to do that. And that's really because of the infrastructure that we're getting in place here. That's allowing for platforms to converge, it's allowing for organic social networking, and it's also allowing for user-generated content. And all of those things are really going to make sure that any company that uses those things adequately enough are going to become much more successful, and money is going after that, and it'll continue to grow. It'll continue. We're so small versus how much money goes into China, how much money goes into Europe or in the US, and so we have a long way to go. A long way to go.
Yeah, I hate to be rubbing salt on wounds, but it seems that you exited pretty early out of InfoEdge, or for that matter, even a Cleartrip. Which of the other businesses that you're still invested in do you see become as large as what InfoEdge did, or for that matter, become unicorns or eventually list, perhaps?
So the exits in InfoEdge, et cetera, were in a different avatar of ours. But I think, unfortunately, we will always exit earlier than we would have wanted to in any company. We have a life of a fund, and we have to exit within that life. And we invest in businesses that we believe will grow over long periods of time. And so we were reading this tweet by Anand Mahindra talking about Kotak Mahindra Bank some time ago. And you can only sit there and wish that you had the opportunity to be able to do those with businesses that you watch develop when they're very young, and then unfortunately have to let go of when you see that they're going to be doing something so much greater than what they've been able to do till date. So we will always unfortunately have this conundrum that we'll have to work within. But I think the opportunity to be able to watch them develop in India is really, really interesting right now. And if they can play the games right, hopefully we'll be able to make a lot more than we would have expected to make 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Sure. But I see a lot of consumer flavor in your investments. Given the kind of economic backdrop that we're currently in, and in your interactions maybe with those companies, how difficult is it really out there to do business in consumer-centric sectors?
I think so. We're mostly a consumer fund.
Yeah, that's what.
So the flavor is exactly right.
Since we were talking about food before we started the official interaction, yeah.
I think it's tough, but it's tough because India is tough. It's not tough because the need is not there.
Why do you say that?
We're not inventing new things. We're trying to find things that people already move toward.
We're replicating.
And we're trying to find better ways of doing it. So Rebel is a food business that McDonald's should have done today if they started today, where I don't need all of this infrastructure. I'll give you the food to you. You don't have to come to me. Melora is a jewelry company where we're selling gold because people want gold. We're just doing it in a very different fashion. If a furniture company was to start selling furniture today, they might move towards subscription rather than just giving you furniture, because normally you don't need furniture to last forever. You want change in your life. And so we're not trying to create a need. We're trying to improve the fashion in which we provide that need to you. And so you need it. Whether the economy is going up or down, or whether GDP is growing at a certain rate versus another rate, doesn't mean you don't need food. And so, in that sense, the market for most of the things that we're selling are out there. But India is a complicated place. Getting it out there, getting the word out there has been difficult. Distribution has been difficult. The internet and the infrastructure, that whether it's the government or that's government with a payment stack, really important. With the internet and whatever else comes its way, gives you that opportunity. And it allows for smaller businesses to be able to grow and develop and put their name out in a better way. Advertising is a humongous barrier of entry for young businesses. But user-generated content and organic social networks and discovery allow for you to bypass advertising as well. Can you do it? That's the question, and unfortunately, we'll have to find out.
You know, for all these businesses, how challenging it is when you have Amazon India doing that well. You know, I mean, I know they're aggregators or more of a marketplace, but an IKEA coming into town. Just about every MNC is making its entry into India.
Sure.
How difficult is it going to be for these domestic replicate model businesses to do well and eventually grow to big sizes?
So replicate is a very broad word, but if a company comes to us and says, "Oh my God, we don't know what's going to happen if IKEA comes in and I'm in the furniture space," that's unfortunate. I'm probably not going to look at investing in that company. I think we are in this zone that we cannot be global businesses. Indian companies or Indian brands cannot compete globally because we don't have the right quality, we don't have the right product. People don't like what we do, but we like what everyone does. So what if IKEA comes in? If you're gonna not succeed because IKEA came in, you've done something wrong. You should be able to flourish no matter what the competition is. IKEA does. It flourishes whether Pottery Barn is in one competitor or you have somewhere else in South Asia or Southeast Asia or whatever. There's no reason why. We're looking for companies with the right product. We're looking for companies with the right mindset, the right founders, and the right need that they've attached themselves to. If you have that, then it doesn't matter who the competition is. We've invested in companies in the used automobile space where they had raised $300, $400, $500 million before, right? We've invested in furniture where they've raised tons of money in IKEA coming in. We've invested in marketplaces. We invested in Dunzo recently, and people always come up to it. You have Swiggy and Zomato and Ola, and oh, how could you? And what? That's not the. That's if I have to worry about other companies raising more money than the company we're investing in, then we've invested in the wrong company. It's not about the competition. It's about creating the right product for the need that you're going
Talking about
after.
the product, in fact, let's talk about one of your investments, which is really interesting, is Bombay Shirt. The reason being,
Shirt Company, yeah.
Yeah, the reason being because it is something that is, more authentic in terms of an innovative model that's been created here by founders that were trying to cater to a need, very customized.
Yeah.
What's the kind of scale you foresee in something like that?
So hopefully humongous and global. And I think
I love that you said global just there.
Why shouldn't
That was
it
a
be?
response to what I had asked.
No. What kind of? No. I think there's an underlying message in Bombay Shirt Company. Fast fashion isn't the future of clothing. The world is moving towards a more eco-friendly, more aware society. And the wastage that takes place from clothing or any kind of cloth is worse than almost anything else that happens to our environment. And fast fashion are the biggest culprits of that kind of damage. other than just being able to make clothing, they're doing it in a manner that we believe is the future of clothing. And it's been looked upon in the past as a very expensive exercise. And they're removing that myth. And I think that's our thought. Right. Now, it's their responsibility to then take this money and be able to then make the right product behind it, technology behind it, but also provide the marketing that they will need for it. So we hope that they're able to do that efficiently and quickly.
Okay, so just one last question before we let you go.
I think she has a question as well. So a couple of last questions, I think.
Before, I was just talking about disruption and thinking about it. Within consumption, because you must have seen the industry and the dynamics in India evolve over the years, where do you see the biggest disruption within consumption coming in?
Biggest disruption in terms of people's...
A trend, businesses, segments within consumption. Where do you think the biggest disruption is bound to happen? Is it going to be in foods? Is it going to be clothing? Is it going to be marketplaces versus Bombay Shirt Company kind of models?
I think it's going to be between people. We're a very different culture and people today. There's a little awareness and confidence that's coming up. And so choices is going to become a really big deal. We've never had choices before. And people that can offer choice, I think is going to become a really, really successful business.
Sid, if I could just come in since we're a bit short on time, just wondering, what's the next, big investment that you guys are looking at, and, what's on the agenda for India?
Agenda for India. So I think we don't really follow themes or trends. I'll be honest. We're looking for founders, and we're looking for a certain kind of a company, and none of our companies have any kind of trend involved in it. And I don't think that India's technology has evolved to the point of creating new kinds of technology trends. But we're looking at pretty much the same kinds of things, and the investments that we're looking at making in the future are coming from the same needs that we were just talking about. I'm really excited about how we can change how transportation is being looked at. For the same reason, Bombay Shirt, transportation is a really big problem from the environment's sake. Can we make a company or find a company that develops that along with providing for an environmentally friendly solution? I think food is a humongous opportunity. We've only just recently cracked the tip of that iceberg. There's a whole value chain that exists there that India has not been able to figure out. So I think there's so many different things that are right at the bottom of the barrel as far as needs are concerned that we're not being able to address, and we're not being able to really solve for. But through technology, and hopefully through the kinds of things we've already discussed, we'll be able to solve them and also get them to the consumer.
All right. We look forward to that. Thanks much for coming by to our studio and giving us a sense of the VC investment as well as your overall portfolio.